Hey now, Pete from PFG Pedals here. Today, courtesy of my friend and viewer Gracie, who has graciously supplied these parts here, I'm going to show you how to do a custom loaded pickguard setup for a Stratocaster. And the type of wiring we're going to do here is going to be a take on Fender's, what they call their Fat 50s half blender wiring. With the difference being we're going to make the tone control only be active on the bridge position and not anywhere else. So let's dive in and check it out. Alright, so the parts I'm going to be using today is these are some mystery pickups from, I presume, eBay or something. They have these these are actually plastic bobbins that are textured to look like fiber. They do have the cool vintage style pushback wire. And they read 9K in the bridge position and 5.8K in the middle and neck position. And the middle position is reversed wound, reverse polarity. So it looks like they're going for like a Stevie Ray Vaughan type of thing here. Or supposedly what Stevie Ray Vaughan liked. Anyway, I'm sure it'll be cool. I do like the bridge pickup a little hotter. I usually like it around 8K, but hell, 9K, why not? Let's try it out. We've got CTS pots and an Oak Grigsby 5-way switch. These came from a kit from The Art of Tone. I'll have the link in the description below. This is Fender's, also CTS made, but this is their blender no-load pot. The only difference between this and this, besides the cosmetics, is that this track is disconnected at one end, and that means when you get the knob all the way in one position, that there's absolutely no connection. Basically, it's going to remove the neck pickup completely from the bridge circuit, so that there's no unwanted loading. Yes, we've got copper shielding tape, red pickguard, and let's get started. So to assemble this bad boy, the first thing we're going to do is start getting the grounds in order. So I want to take the blacks are the ground, always the ground on Fender pickups. I'm going to get the signal leads out of the way, and we're going to route these just the way we want them to run, because we don't want sloppy wiring. What I do is I route these all straight down the center, just kind of the way the Fender did it, and then I come across the back of this pickguard and right to the this pickup. Right here. And right to the volume pot. All the grounds always go to the volume pot. This is called a star ground system. You'll notice here I have removed the shielding tape from around these pots. And the reason why is because I'm going to use a ground jumper. I don't like using the shielding tape as the grounding for the pots. Those little toothed washers. Let's see if I got one here. Yeah, so the toothed washers like this. What they do is eventually, over time, the teeth start to wear through the shielding, and then they end up scraping the holes bigger, so they're just touching the plastic and making very poor contact to the shielding. So, and the reason you don't want multiple paths of ground, because that can introduce more noise into a circuit. It's not really a problem with small signals like this, but it's just a good practice to be in to not have multiple ground paths. So you can, if you have like a metal shielding plate, like one of those full pickguard metal plates you see for sale, then you wouldn't need to run the ground jumpers. But I prefer to solder the ground jumpers in, and then and then let the shielding be just connected by contact to this pickup. So let's get going. Boom. So now we've got the grounds done, okay? You can check them out how we're here. While I was doing them, I also mounted the tone cap. Something to note about the tone cap is that I have tested it to see which side is the outside foil layer, and you want to connect that to ground. Check out this little video here. All right, so to find the outside layer of these poly capacitors, and thus which side is supposed to go to ground most of the time, I simply just rigged up this exquisite testing rig where I plug it in across an amp and I touch it. Hear how loud it is? It's because it's acting like an antenna and introducing all kinds of noise into the circuit. So now let's switch it around and see what happens. Still a little noisy, but much quieter, and that's because now the outside layer is acting like shielding, which is why you want that part connected to ground. It's just a little thing that contributes to less noise in a circuit overall, although at higher voltages like in radios and guitar amplifiers, it's absolutely critical. Now I mark the end that's connected to ground with a little black dot. That way I know which way to hook it up. And also, you know, if you're doing stuff like this all the time, you might want to just do a whole batch of these rather than doing them one at a time, you know. And you'll see how I did that. It's a very simple step. It's not absolutely necessary, but if a guitar is a sum of its parts, then reducing the noise is a sum of a bunch of small little improvements. As far as soldering goes, you don't need huge globs of solder on these. You want to make sure the solder is sticking to the solder pot. Sometimes I see these, you'll see like it looks like a bead of solder is sitting on top of the wire and you're pulling the wire and it pops off. It's very important to be patient or use a big tip, but what you really want is to make sure the solder is not only adhering to the wire, but also very well to the pot. And you can see how it's spread out. That shows that enough heat got to the pot to let it on there, because a lot of people rush these and they don't get good connections. Another good idea is to sand the area where you are soldering to, and it just makes the solder here a little better. And then I also like to put a little bit of rosin on it, flux on it. So the next step is going to be to move on to wiring from the switch to the pots. We're going to do the pickups last. Here's what we look like so far. The problem is I can't solder without my exhaust vent on, so I can't do that. It's too loud. So it really irritates, the solder smoke really irritates my sinuses, so I have to have the exhaust running when I'm soldering. But here we can see the grounding. One thing I left out is I forgot to ground the first terminal on the volume pot, which is necessary. Some guys will bend that tab over. I don't like stressing the terminals out like that. I just use a wire jumper. In this case, I just rerouted the jumper that was already going through to hit there. Or another option would have been to take a little piece of wire and run it here, but I figure minimal number of soldering joints is better. Here I've routed, you can see how I've routed the wires for the blender pot and the tone control. All of these have slight little bits of extra, and that's part of why I route them and bend them like that, so that if I got to move them around to get them inside the cavity, no problem. So now I'm going to finish up wiring the pickups. You can see how I've routed the middle pickup already, and then I'll check back in with you. All right, so I went ahead and did the output jack wiring too. So you can see everything's nice and neat. These wires were exactly as long as they needed to be. If they had cut them a little bit shorter, it would have made it, I wouldn't have been happy with how they're routed, but they made them exactly as long as they needed to be. They did not, it's like this wire must be very precious because they did not want to waste a drop of it. I used, instead of using the cloth wiring on the output jack, I am using a single core shielded wire, 22 gauge. And that's just another measure to help reduce noise. because since that's the longest wire. This is something, this and the star wiring schematic here, where I don't let these pots touch this. This is stuff I learned from Lindy Freyland's website. They have, you know, a bunch of good tips and stuff. So if you're going to wire a pickguard, I suggest checking out. They have all kinds of schematics. They have pro tips. They have articles about how to do it. All kinds of useful stuff if you're a beginner. But anyway, I don't know what else to say about it. It came out pretty good. The next thing to do is to slap it on a guitar and try it out. So that'll be another video. Thanks for watching. All the affiliate links are below. If you choose to buy some of this stuff using my links, I get a little kickback. But I have to tell you that. I don't care. Don't use it. It doesn't matter to me. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next one. Pickguard is out.